I mean, I hope so. I mean, there's no better way than what we did this year with what we had. I mean, you cut payroll, and we do what we do. Hopefully we bring back O'Hearn, we bring back all the guys that need to be here. I mean, this team is ready. This team is ready. We fell short this year, but I mean, we're confident in the group that we have that we can go out there and repeat it every single year. So, I hope they continue to do that and listen to us and ultimately listen to the fans that want to bring a championship to the city of San Diego.
I know it just ended, but how do you assess a season like this?
I mean, what type of question is that, dude? My guy. How do I assess the season? We just lost. How do you think I assess the season? How do you think I assess it?
I don't know. That's what I was asking.
You tell me. What's a loss? We lost. How do you assess it? It's a loss. You lost. Come on, dude. I mean, you could ask better questions than that. Let's go. Come on.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Marty Time TV. I am Marty Caswell. That is Jake Garegnani of CBS 8. We are brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players' Place. Jake, how would you assess the Philly season after that brutal loss?
I had a feeling that was coming. I would assess it that I feel bad for Ryan Kirkring, man. That is a tough way to end a season. I know the Philly fans have to be wildly disappointed, just like all the Padre fans are. That's, all that momentum, all that hype going into the postseason, and it's over like that.
I was thinking about that this morning, that the Phillies ultimately ended up winning one more game than the Padres, right? No, the same amount of games in the postseason. But if you're getting eliminated, I'd rather go the way the Padres went out with a strike that wasn't to Xander Bogaerts than the way that one ended. Hey, Jake, actually, all you Padre fans, thank you guys for tuning in today. This show could be either great or a complete disaster. Let me explain my situation. I live in PB. Last night, the power went out like around 10 o'clock at night. The power came back on around 1 o'clock in the morning, but the Wi-Fi spectrum has been out since 10 o'clock last night. I have one bar when I'm in my house on T-Mobile. I get 2 bars when I'm outside. So I'm here on my patio with a stupid hat. But thank you guys for putting up with me. I don't know. Jake, you'll have to do what you always do when you join me. You will have to carry this show in case my Wi-Fi is so crappy. But anyways, it's good to see you.
I have never carried your show. You always do the great work. It's great to see you. And I think that hat's beautiful, by the way. Don't call that hat stupid. It's a great hat. And I think people are understanding that you can't control the power and the Wi-Fi going out. We'll have a great show. It's going to be a lot of fun, Marty.
I'm having a tech between Spectrum and T-Mobile. Shout out, you guys. Fix this. How about a credit on my account? Right, so I'm on my patio. About Jake, I do want to go to the exchange that you had with Manny. I know that your post, your line of questioning blew up all over social media. I'm sure on sports shows. Can you just take me through your exchange and what you were thinking in that moment? And by the way, that was the correct question. Like I had this conversation with AJ Caswell on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. But that's when you ask it. You don't ask Manny Machado in spring training, what do you think about the way your season ended? He's going to say, why are you asking me about last season? We're about this season right now. I already forgot what happened. The time to ask those painful questions isn't the moment. So kudos to you. But if you can, just take me through that moment and what you were thinking at the time.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack given the reaction of what has happened. But what I've been saying to a lot of people is I think it was an incredibly fair question. I'm not going to back off on that. I think it was an incredibly fair question. I think given the circumstances, I understand Manny's response too. Like I hold no ill will towards Manny. I think those are tense, frustrating locker rooms. I was very particular and careful about the way I asked the question, not to be pointed, not to say, is this season a failure? Why do you think it was a failure? I tried to leave it very open-ended so Manny could take it where he wanted to, and Manny decided to take it that route. And it's not my place to say which way Manny's supposed to take that question. That my job is to present the question. Manny was answering it in that situation. He decided to answer it that way. I think I've heard a lot of, I've gotten all kinds of stuff sent my way, obviously. Manny, and I used it in my piece.
Good or bad?
A lot of negative, but that's okay. I got no problem with it. I think a lot of people have been telling me to go back to journalism school, but I think there's been a lot of questions asked previous in that interview. So that was the last question, obviously. And what people may not know is there's a PR team behind us in those interviews. And as I'm starting that question, the PR person says, hey, last one. So we know it's going to be the last one. But I had asked Manny questions earlier in that scrum about certain things. And to Manny's credit, and I think people have missed this when they see the one viral clip, and I used other sound bites from Manny in my piece for CBS 8, and it's on my social media. Manny talking about how great the fans have been, how he took responsibility for a lot of the failures. So Manny did just a totally fine job of answering all those questions beforehand. The question I asked, though, was completely different than the ones he had already answered. A lot of the questions beforehand were, how disappointing is this moment? How tough is it to lose this series? I wanted to know what his thoughts were about the overall season, because in my opinion, this has been the golden era of Padres baseball. This is the first time the team has won 90 games in back-to-back years. They've made the playoffs 4 out of 6 years. And honestly, when I was thinking about it and asking the question, I was thinking about Giannis being asked that question after the Bucks had gotten eliminated. And he was asked a much more pointed, kind of aggressive question, in my opinion, where he was asked, is this season a failure? And Giannis had a really beautiful answer saying, like, nothing is a failure. It's building blocks. It's movement towards where we ultimately want to go for our goal. And that was kind of the route that I thought maybe it would go, but it didn't. And that's okay. Those are tense, frustrating locker rooms. To your point, why I kind of lay all this out, we will not see, me personally, will not see Manny Machado until Fan Fest or spring training of the next year.
Right.
And so I've heard a lot of people going, wrong place, wrong time. You can't ask that there. It's too raw. Unfortunately, that's our job. That's the place to ask it. It's really the only place I'm going to get the opportunity to ask it in that moment, because you know very well when we show up at spring training next year and you ask that question, it will be, we're moving on from last year. It's about this year. So that's my logic of it all. There's been obviously a million things thrown around about a lot of criticism and this and that. And that's the way I would lay it out. I've been trying to be very safe about not pointing any fingers. In fact, when I've posted it, I said, here's the question I asked. Here was the answer. On live television, I said, here's what I asked him. Here's what he answered. And again, I used other stuff from Manny to make sure that people knew this was not the only exchange. This was not the first question. I didn't walk straight up to Manny and go, hey, how do you say, like there's a lot of things that I think people just don't realize because you do see a whatever minute-long clip. And that's the nature of the world we live in, unfortunately. But I hope that answers it. That was a long answer to your question, but I know people have been kind of wanting to hear why I asked that, and that's why.
No, but and by the way, I'm so glad you said that. I really, really am. And I'm glad that we're having this opportunity to go ahead and discuss this. And I know that people are like already moving on to the off season, but I think that what you asked him that's the right time. All these players, by the way, in that clubhouse were asked that question, not just about the loss, but how do you assess this season? I'm asking Michael King and Yu Darvish about, is this it for you? I mean, not mostly for Michael King because he's a free agent. All these guys were asked about the possibility of it being their final game, the impending free agents, with the Padres, and how disappointing it was. And I just think for Manny, and I thought about that too, especially watching Bryce Harper yesterday, the Phillies being eliminated. If you're Manny Machado, you have a very specific window left and I just wonder if he's thinking in that moment, this is my last best opportunity to maybe win a championship, right? He's getting older. You see the guys that are leaving. And if you watch the open that I played before you came on, my previous question to him was, are you hoping that the ownership goes for it? Because you have a lot of guys that can be free agents. And he said, I hope so. We cut payroll this offseason, and look at us. I hope they listen to the players and to the fans. And I'd like to see Ryan O'Hearn come back. So to your point, though, Manny Machado did answer a lot of questions. And by the way, through the course of the past couple of months, he has put a lot of their struggles on himself. He hasn't shied away and said, I don't want to talk about this. That's a stupid question, bro. He has said, I've sucked. And that's the reason why we did not win the division against the soft schedule.
Yeah, and for anybody that has either watched me on CBS 8 or on this show, it's funny because I've probably been the biggest defender of Manny throughout this entire season. I have been on the record many a time saying that I really appreciate what Manny Machado brought to the Padres originally, which was that don't F with us attitude, that, hey, we're not going to be the kids that get bullied on the block anymore. We're going to be the aggressors. And that's the personality that Manny Machado brings in. As I said, I liked that. I got the brunt end of it during an interview, and it happens. But I still, I don't mind him being frustrated and showing his frustration. Do I think that was the question that probably should have prompted the frustration? Maybe not. But I still I don't mind somebody being frustrated after a season comes to an end. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's quite all right. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that.
By the way, I was thinking he was trying to. I saw some commentary like, do they have history? No, there's no history. He's been pretty much civil. He has these moments with everybody. He had it most recently with, I think, with Barry Bloom of Forbes, or whoever he writes for, when he asked about they can't win the division or the opportunity they have. He had it with AJ Caswell. He has it with AC all the time. He's had it with me. So just because you have these salty moments does not mean that you have a personal problem with a reporter. For the most part this season, I really think he's been a different Manny Machado. He's tried to be more thoughtful. He's tried to rein in some of these comments. But on the very last day, when their season ended, when they were eliminated, the bite came out a little bit. Like, and I get it. I get it. So.
Yeah.
All right, here's a comment, Jake, real quick. Here's a comment. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Here's a comment from Carlos. I wish the San Diego media would be tougher on the Padres. However, it is not their fault. The team must not allow tough questions. All right. I'll take it real first. There are times where, especially when it's a first-year player, it's a rookie, when you're not really allowed to ask those questions, or they'll take them away, or they don't want the one-on-ones. They want it done in a scrum. We're allowed to ask tough questions. But as Jake mentioned, that particular time with Manny Machado, that was the end of a scrum he was doing in that locker room. And before Jake asked the question, you can hear in the background, that's the last question. And then Jake asked the question. Guys, I'm not sure if you want us to go up there and say, you suck, what's wrong with you? There's a way to be professional. There's a way to handle yourself. You cannot go in there asking as a fan. So when you say ask tougher questions, I'm really not sure what you're expecting that you wanted the media to ask that wasn't asked in that locker room. Go, Jake.
Yeah, I hear this all the time. It's such a soft media scene out here in San Diego, and they just treat the players so soft, and they don't ever hold up feet to the fire, and it couldn't be further from the truth. First of all, most media does this the similar way. I think a lot of the aggressive media that you see, maybe the New York or the Bostons or stuff like that, are asking aggressive questions that are ultimately you can get the same answer out of without having to do that.
Yeah.
I got a lot of people, obviously, when they were commenting on the Manny stuff, saying like, how could you ask that question? If I was in there, I would ask this and I would ask that.
Ask what?
And
ask what? What do you ask?
I don't know what was left not asked during that scrum, and maybe people haven't seen the whole interview. I know a lot of people are like, well, you should ask him why he's hitting 200 in the postseason. That should have been the question. What is that question benefit? What does that do? Like if you ask Manny, hey, why have you struggled in the postseason? What are you going to get out of that? I don't understand this thought process of like sitting in here and you got to go up there and you got to ask them why they aren't playing well or why they are. Like, I think there's way more to it than just going in there and asking a tough question for the sake of asking a tough question. And I think when people would get in front of a person like a Manny Machado or another athlete, and you realize that these are human beings because you're around them and you're doing this stuff, that you're not trying to tear these people down by any means. Why would we want to do that? We're trying to get information out and trying to understand their emotions, which I think people overlook about the whole interaction with Manny and I, is like, that was the emotions in the moment, and that's okay. So yeah, I don't understand the whole ask tougher question things. This media is soft, yada, yada, yada. What's the perfect question? Like, if that guy or gal wants to jump back in, what's the perfect question to ask there? Go ahead and throw it out there while we move on. And I would like to see what they think the perfect question is in that moment, the tough question that we didn't ask.
Yeah, I agree. And there's been times when I've had these moments. I had one most recently with Mike Schill when I asked him about Tatis struggling, and he looked at me like I had, 4 heads and fangs, and I don't know, I wasn't wearing any clothes or anything like that. And the thing that always bothers me the most is I wish I had a better follow-up, but sometimes there is no follow-up. And one thing I want to point out when people ask, how come you're not asking about him struggling? Well, if you cover a certain player and a team on a daily basis, and that question was asked the day before and the day before and the week before, and you've had that conversation, you don't keep asking the same question that you just asked yesterday that was already been answered. And that also is sometimes why he knows he struggled. He hasn't shied away from it. They all have. You heard what Tatis said about everything has to change. We have to learn to effing hit. These guys are asked these questions all the time. But anyways.
They're answering it, Marty. They already have. It's just I don't know if people maybe aren't watching the whole thing. Like Manny earlier in that interview, and I know you post all of the full interviews, and we do typically
Yes,
to our
I do.
website too. Earlier in that interview, Manny said, "It's on me. I didn't hit well enough
Yep.
with runners in scoring position." What else do you
Yep.
want him to say? Like, what else would
I
you
know.
like him to say for you to feel that that was a tough night? Like, he answered it. He said, "It's on me." He said the offense needs to do better. He complimented the fans. He complimented the pitching staff. I thought Manny, and it is a bit of a bummer that whole interview is going to be remembered for the last minute of it. But I thought Manny did totally great in that interview, talking about how he complimented the right things and the right people. And then raw emotion of a season ending came out, and that happens like that.
Yep.
I don't think 10 million views later is the right thing, but who knows?
What else? Anything else strike you from just walking that clubhouse? I think the first thing that I saw when I walked in was Manny at his locker. And I think his locker was right by Yu Darvish's, and they were just like deep in conversation and just a quiet reflection. That's kind of what struck me. It struck me to see like all the pitchers getting together, right? You saw Michael King, Nick Pivetta. They're tight. Jackson Merrill, Gavin Sheets, like everyone kind of pulled up in a circle, and they were talking and having, I guess, laughter and tears and red eyes. What kind of struck me was just how close everybody was in that group.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly said. Perfectly said. I felt the same way, and those are hard rooms to walk into. You know, these folks work their entire careers for moments like these to try and go do something that they've tried to accomplish their entire lives. And when it comes to an end, it's raw. It's a lot, and you walk into definitely a tricky situation. And I thought, to your point, watching the pitchers get together and Niebla, sitting around chatting with them. I think we were talking to Michael or Gavin. I can't remember who, but one of them said Pivetta, I think, is taking it the hardest amongst everybody. You know, Nick,
that was Michael.
Michael, yeah, and it's just it just shows you like the rawness in the competition and the competitor that Nick is, and all of these guys, right? Like, I remember walking in and Manny's hugging Martin Maldonado, who I'm sure the fans have plenty to say about Martin Maldonado, but it's like everybody on this team is close knit, right? Like they love each other. And that's what's really hard about these moments that I don't know if people contextualize well enough, is like, this is the last time that group of people will be together forever. That whole core, that team, that group, that moment in that clubhouse is the last time, or the flight home is the last time that they will all be together and that they all get to compete together. And then that team will never be the same exactly again. That's a heavy weight to carry when you have big goals.
That's 100%. I'm sorry. I want to keep too much longer because my Wi-Fi, my cell phone, my cell data flashing right now, and you keep disappearing on me. I mentioned Yu Darvish, and when I close this show, you guys will see a little portion of Yu Darvish being asked about King. Do you think that's it for you?
I think it's a difficult question to answer. I think it could go either way with Yu Darvish, and ultimately we lost Marty here. I'll answer the question for Marty before I jump off here too. But Marty's question was, do you think this is the end for Yu Darvish? Because there was speculation left open after Yu Darvish's media session, where he was essentially asked, do you think this is it? And he said he's going to take some time to think about it. And I think the best way to answer that question is, I don't think Yu knows yet. He's a very thoughtful human being. Yu Darvish doesn't make rash decisions. So I think Yu will definitely take the time to think about whether he's going to retire or not, or whether he's going to keep playing. Marty, I just picked it up and kept going. So you're in the middle of my answer to Yu Darvish here. But what I was saying to the folks watching is, I don't think Yu knows yet. I think he's very thoughtful, very, not making rash decisions type of person. I think ultimately Yu is going to leave it up to his body and whether he can physically pitch, because Yu strikes me as the type of guy that he signed a contract and he will throw until he can't. But at the same time, Yu Darvish, I think, will not hurt the team. If he knows he doesn't have it anymore, I think he will say, I don't have it anymore, and this is it. So I think Yu's going to leave it up to his body. If he can still compete, and he believes he can compete and get quality outs and quality starts for this team, he will. If he thinks he can't, I think he is the type of person that will go, I just can't give you what it takes to pitch at this level anymore. And if that is the case, I have a hunch he's going to be back, Marty. But if it is the case that he calls it a career, what a hell of a career. I mean, I couldn't respect somebody more than Yu Darvish and the way he's carried himself and what he's done for this franchise. He's one of the top athletes I've gotten to cover, just in a level of respect, for sure.
I completely agree, and I know that we know he's big here in the U.S., but I wish you guys could understand how big what an icon, absolute icon he is in Japan, and I think there's an honor to him and a certain way he wants to go out. I don't think he wants to go to a point where he has to force their hands, and you're talking about a release, but we'll see what happens. He does have value with what he can bring. It'll be interesting to see, like maybe it's a situation again like last season where you're not going to see him early in the season. He's going to work his way back slowly, and you're hoping that you get a better version of him if his body allows him to come July, August, postseason time. All right. Anything? Listen, I told you I wanted to. Anything else in the Padres before I ask you like one quick NFL question about the movies, and then on to your weekend, Jake Garegnani of CBS.
I appreciate it. One last thought on the Padres is,
Yeah.
I think that this core is still really here. I know people are worried already. We're talking offseason, all this stuff. I think the team's actually pretty well set up for next year when you consider all of the factors. When you consider that they pretty much have 8 starting players ready to go on the offensive and defensive side of things. The pitching will be a little bit interesting, but Preller, I think, will do his thing. Preller damn well better stay. I think you want to talk about people I have a ton of respect for. AJ Preller is one of them. And I think he will, no doubt about it. But I think this team may be a hot take because I know people are hurt right now. I think this team's well set up for next year. Now, the competition around them might get a lot better. But I think this team's pretty well set up for next season, and I think they'll continue to improve. That's my Mr. Positive silver lining thought on the San Diego Padres.
I don't think they can afford him, but I'll tell you the guy who would be atop my wish list in free agency for that first base, assuming they don't get Ryan O'Hearn per Manny Machado's wishes. His name is Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor, man, he's got it factor. He's got some slug. You don't think he has the body of first baseman, but that dude, he's a baller. I'd love to see Josh Naylor back in San Diego. He was part of the Mike Clevenger trade, right? Bring him back home. You can go home again. So, anyways.
Keep him in San Diego again. Let's bring him back. Yeah, they'll definitely, I think, bring some slug into that first baseman position one way or another, whether it's Ryan, whether it's Josh, whether it's some other person. But everyone knows what the team needs, and AJ at the forefront of that knows exactly what he needs to bring in.
Okay, for those of you who are watching right now, I'm sitting outside because the power went out in PB last night. The Wi-Fi went. Everybody with Spectrum lost their internet last night. It has not been restored. I'm using my mobile data because I can't get T-Mobile in my house. I have to go outside. So I've got like 2 more questions for you, Jake. For you NFL fans, what's the game they're getting here in San Diego come Sunday? What are the 2 NFL games?
Yeah, we got a double header. It'll be the Chargers at the Dolphins. That's a team, the Chargers, that came out of the gates on fire, 3-0. They have been ravaged by injuries, lost 2 straight. The Dolphins are a very bad football team, so it should be a get-right game for the Chargers, but I don't need to explain to the people that watch this show what the Chargers are and are not, so I'll leave it at that. And then the second game should be a really good one. 49ers and Buccaneers, 2-4-1 teams. Mac Jones, like all of a sudden, resurgence under Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. And then if you like football, you got to watch Baker Mayfield in number 6 in the Buccaneers. That dude is must watch television. And then if you stick around after the football games, we'll have the post-game show, the final quarter post-game show. That is if people still like watching me. I'm under a little bit of hot water right now, but we'll be there. We'll be on television.
God, man. Okay, I don't want to test this Wi-Fi. I actually want to talk a little bit more concerts, but maybe we can do it again, Jake. I really appreciate talking to you right now, and I would agree with you. I love watching Baker Mayfield. That chip on his shoulder is real, man. He plays it to effect. I mean, him getting personal with a former, was it Steve Wilkes, his former head coach, DC with the Panthers. So I would want Baker Mayfield as my quarterback if I cared about a team, which I don't.
You know that saying where they're like, hey, if you could go get a beer with one person, who would it be? Dude, Bake is at the top of that list for me. If we're talking athletes only, music's a whole nother world. I know we'll get into music some other time, but Baker Mayfield, as far as athletes go, sit down and have a beer with him. I'm so very much in. And one final note, we also have a top 10 matchup on Saturday on CBS 8, Indiana and Oregon. If you're a college football fan, that should be a hell of a ball game too. So plenty of good sports to watch this weekend. Before I let you go, Marty, what are your Game 5 predictions for the AL and NL? Who you got moving on?
I have the Cubs. I think the Cubs have figured out their slug, and that's just going to frustrate Padre fans to the end of time because you're thinking, you know what? That could have been us facing the Dodgers in the NLCS, which is the matchup we all wanted out of spring training. And it's I have the Mariners. I have the Mariners finally moving on after a couple decades of just futility.
And that game's
The better
today.
cup that also could have been.
The better cup that could have been. That game scares me a little if you're the Mariners because, man, Detroit's going to have Tarek Skubal on the bump. And, God, I mean, if that guy ain't the best pitcher in baseball, he's a top 3. So it should be interesting. What a year of baseball and what a run for the Padres. I think one final thought, because I know you're leaving, is that don't take these for granted. You know, it's fun to make the playoffs. It's fun to be able to have this kind of emotion and this want, and there were so many years where we didn't get that, and to be able to be in this era of Padres baseball, hopefully it continues for a long time. But these are special moments, and hopefully they get that goal. I do really think they have the right people in place to try and accomplish that goal. Winning in the postseason's really hard, though.
I completely agree. Jake, you're the best. And I'll tell you this, the number one guy they have to fix, I think, moving forward is going to be Fernando Tatis Jr. I'm looking forward to finding out what his offseason looks like and what happens when he comes back. Now, I know we're finding out that he lost his lawsuit. I think he knew that again during the postseason, so maybe it affected him, but maybe it's something else. We don't know. We're not in their heads. Jake, you're the best. I am testing my Wi-Fi or my internet, and I'm really sorry, guys. Thanks for putting up with us. Jake, you're the best. I appreciate your candor and your conversation on Manny Machado. Again, you asked a great question. You asked the obvious question. I'm going to say this one more time. You asked a question that was asked of almost every single player we talked to in that locker room. I just think it was the frustration of the moment that got him. I get it. It happens, but oh well. Good on you, Jake Garegnani.
I haven't lost a single second of sleep over it. I'm sure Manny has not lost a single second of sleep over it. It's two professionals doing their jobs, and I think that's what happens sometimes. Marty, you're the absolute best. It's been a really fun year. I appreciate you asking me to come on so much. I know you got a lot of really smarter people than I you could ask to come on, but I really enjoy our conversations together, and you just continue to do amazing work. And you want to talk about having respect for people. I know I've told you this in person, but I got just a ton of respect for you and always will.
You're the best. If I can go ahead and plug one of my shows for next week, Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network will join me next Tuesday. A lot of conversations about the quarterbacks. I'm going to find out, is this quarterback class for this year, the rookie quarterback class, the best ever?
There's been some good ones.
There's been some very good ones, but there's a lot of talent in this one, including that.
I'll let Daniel Jeremiah answer that question.
Awesome. Okay, that's Jake Garegnani. I'm Marty Caswell. We are brought to you by the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. Have a wonderful, what day is it? Is it Friday? Hopefully you all have Wi-Fi and power. Have a great weekend. I look forward to talking to you next week. Thanks, Jake. Happy Friday.
まあもちろんこれからのことなんでまた体のこともありますから、しっかりオフシーズンなんていうの体をしっかり整えてそこからまた考えてる。
Yeah, I mean I can tell you that we'll go into the off season. I'll assess, see where my body is, and then move forward from there.
After this season, can you just reflect? Can you reflect right now what your time in San Diego has meant to you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to leave this locker room with all the boys just talking about today's game even. Everybody from TJ Lasita, our traveling secretary, to the guy that got 1 day of service time, it's probably puts together a great team. And it's really fun to be part of this locker room. And yeah, it's fun to watch the guys play, and I guess we'll see what happens.